The midnight train. Elara had always taken the same route home from her late-night bookstore shifts. The quiet streets, the flickering streetlights, and the distant hum of the city had become familiar. But tonight, something was different. As she rounded the corner near the old train yard, long abandoned and overgrown, she noticed something impossible: a station. A small, dimly lit train station with an arched iron sign that read Midnight Line in faded gold lettering. She had walked this street hundreds of times before, yet never once had she seen this place. A single train sat on the tracks, its deep blue exterior shimmering under the station's lanterns. The doors stood open, inviting. A shiver ran down Elara's spine. Trains don't stop at empty train yards. Train stations don't just appear. But something deep inside her whispered, "Step inside." And so she did. The interior was unlike any train she had ever seen. Velvet seats, golden sconces, and walls lined with books gave it the air of an old study rather than a passenger car. A soft hum filled the space, as though the train itself were breathing. Elara wasn't alone. A handful of passengers sat in silence, their eyes reflecting something distant. An old woman traced patterns on a fogged window. A young boy clutched a wooden toy train, whispering to himself. A man in a bowler hat looked up and gave her a knowing smile. "First time?" he asked. Elara nodded hesitantly. "This train only picks up those with unfinished moments," he continued, "a chance to relive something lost." Elara's heart skipped a beat. Memories? Could that be why she was here? Before she could ask another question, the train lurched forward, moving without a sound. Outside the window, the night blurred into streaks of light until suddenly, the train stopped. Elara gasped. She wasn't in the city anymore. Outside, she saw a familiar street, but not as it was now. It was brighter, filled with laughter, and standing near a bookshop she hadn't seen in years was someone she had lost long ago. Her grandfather. Tears welled in her eyes. He had been her greatest storyteller, filling her childhood with tales of mystery and wonder. But time had taken him too soon. The doors of the train slid open. "You can step out," the man in the bowler hat said gently. But only for a moment. Elara hesitated. Was this real? Was this a dream? Taking a deep breath, she stepped onto the cobblestone street. She could smell the crisp evening air, the scent of ink and parchment from the bookshop. She could hear her grandfather humming a tune as he flipped through an old leather-bound novel. "Elara?" He turned, surprised. His warm eyes crinkled in delight. "My stars, look at you," but how she couldn't speak. The lump in her throat was too thick. Instead, she rushed forward, embracing him as if she were still that small child who had spent hours in his study. "You're here," she whispered. "For now," he smiled, "and so are you." They sat together, flipping through books, telling old stories, just like before. And for a little while, time didn't matter. But soon, the air grew heavier, the bookshop dimmer. The train's whistle echoed faintly. She knew what it meant. "It's time," he said softly, squeezing her hand. "But you'll carry this moment with you, always." Tears streamed down her face, but she smiled, always. And as she stepped back onto the train, the memory didn't fade. The train moved again, and when it stopped, Elara expected another memory, but instead, the passengers were gone. The train was empty. She stepped outside and found herself exactly where she had started standing near the abandoned train yard. The station was gone, the train was gone. Only the faint scent of old books lingered in the air. Had it all been real? She reached into her pocket and gasped. A small leather-bound book, one of her grandfather's favorites, a gift from the past. A moment returned. As she turned to walk home, she glanced once more at the empty train tracks. And somewhere in the wind, she swore she heard a distant whistle. Some moments are lost to time, but love, memory, and stories, those never fade.